Hello, all you magnificent people out there in the multiverse. In this video, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the rules for, as a review, the rules for exponents. We covered this a little bit in class, but just as a quick review, let's run down the different ways in which the SAT is going to test you on your ability to navigate exponents. Okay, so the first rule is going to be the multiplication rule. All right. My handwriting's awful. But here's the way that this works, just a quick review. If we have some sort of number, let's just say we have 5, and we have an exponent there, let's say 3, times 5 to the, say, 4th power. Okay, the idea here is that since the bases are the same, we're dealing with a 5, right, but we have different exponents, all we do is add the exponents. Okay, so that would get us to, we would have 5, and then adding these two exponents together would be 3 plus 4, would mean this is the same thing as 5 to the 7th power. Okay? The same thing goes when you have, say, variables, like in algebra. Let's say I had x squared times x to the 7th. The bases are the same, right? We're dealing with an x for both of them. So we would just simply add together 7 and 2. That would get us to x to the 9th. Okay? Now, the complication for this rule is that sometimes you have multiple variables in there. So like, for example, supposing I had this equation here. Let's say I had x to the 9th times y to the 3rd times x squared times y to the 5th. Let's just say we had that. Well, in this case, all we have to do is the rule is, if you're multiplying things and they have exponents, if the bases are the same, we can add the exponents. Well, x and y are not the same base, so I cannot add the x and y exponents here. But notice I have an x in there as well. So the x's can add together, so that would get me to x to the 9 plus 2, right? So I have a 2 here and a 9 there. So that gets me x to the 11th, and then likewise, let's do it in red, the y's also, these two in there, have the same base, so we can add their exponents. Okay, so that would get me 2 times y to the, what is this? Like this? It's to the 8th power, right? And there it would be. Okay, so sometimes you're gonna get multiple bases, and all you have to do when you're multiplying them is just make sure you line up the appropriate ones. Okay, so the x's would go with the x's, the y's would go with the y's. All right, so that's rule number 1. Multiplication. Okay. I'm going to clear this space out a little bit. Hopefully you were taking notes. Okay, so rule number 2. We may not get through all the rules here because my goal is I want to make this video about 5 minutes long, no more. So that looks like we'll probably get through this rule and then we'll pause and continue with the next one. But the next rule is the division rule. Okay. So with the multiplication rule, we were just supposed to add the exponents. If we are dividing exponents, we subtract. So that would be an example like this. Let's keep it with x, just because we're going to be all algebraic here. So we say we had x to the 7th divided by x to the 3rd. Well, that's just going to be, you take the top number, the top exponent, and subtract the bottom one. So it'd be 7 minus the 3. So that gets us to x to the 4th power. Okay? And again, just like we talked about with the previous example, you could have multiple variables in there. You just have to match them up appropriately. So for example, I could have x to the 7th. Oops, that was a terrible. Let's try that again. X to the 7th, we'll just leave it go. Y to the 3rd, and that divided by, let's say, x to the 6th and y. Well, what would this be? Well, it's the same thing, right? We can't combine these variables here because they have different bases, but they are being divided by matching bases here. So I have this x matches with this one, and this y matches with that one. We can just subtract, right? So it would be 7, the 7 here, minus the 6. So it gets us to, what is it? 7 minus 6 is x to the 1, or just x. And then the 3 minus the, well, presumably there'd be a 1 there, right? 3 minus the 1, that gets us to y2. And there we have it. And that's it. That's all you have to do with these. Okay, so we're going to pause at this. We're hitting that 5-minute mark. We're going to review over the next few rules in the next video.